Hi, Kristen. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you
I'm
doing?
good, thanks. So, thank you so much for joining me in this video blog, essentially, to share with the Free from Perfect community. So, let everyone know a little bit about who you are and what you do, and yeah, let's start from there.
Okay, well, hello. My name is Kristen, and my website is We All Knit Here, and I teach online knitting lessons and I sell knitting patterns.
Mm.
And it's sort of designed as a way for people to not only learn a new skill and come away with a hand knit project that they hopefully love, but to also sort of find a way to relax and to get away from a lot of the stress and anxiety that is so prevalent in our lives at
Yeah.
this time.
Okay, so what like that is really interesting because it's about like mindful knitting and like explain to people what mindful knitting is.
Sure. So, a lot of mindful meditation, when most people think of meditation and especially mindful meditation, it's when you're focusing on your breath and you're sitting on a cushion and you have your eyes closed and you're breathing in and out and all you do is focus on your breath. And I think that's really great, but a lot of times it's too much for me and for my mind. It just keeps going and going and going. And so one of the ways that I have found is when I have my knitting needles and I am able to concentrate on an activity, I can actually sort of turn my mind off that way and I can get the same benefits of meditation and be productive at the same time.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And you mentioned to me before that you sometimes like once I guess more or less when you were creating your website and creating this brand essentially like you encountered some like perfectionist tendencies. Would you like to elaborate on that and share that?
Sure. It was starting this brand, this website, was very difficult for me because I am a recovering perfectionist, so I still have it pop up every now and then, and I still have issues with that. And so starting this website, I didn't want to tell people about it. I didn't want it to go live until it was absolutely perfect. And what is that? It's always going to be a work in progress.
Of course.
And I have knitting courses, and I actually reshot one of my courses three
Oh
times
my gosh.
because I was not happy with it. And actually, the first time we shot, I ended up it was like an 8-hour day, and my course is not that long. And that's so unnecessary. I was just getting in my own way.
Yeah, it happens. It happens, like even when I was starting out my website too, like I wanted to have the perfect name, I wanted to have the perfect like color scheme, I wanted to have like perfectly written like blog post and like, I wanted everything to be perfect and it wasn't. And I just had to just let go of that and just, so I decided that this is what I'm going to do. I'm just gonna let go and share it with everyone and not get too bottled up with worrying about having it perfect because it's not going to be right. So I think it's important to like just put it out there now and perfect it or whatever perfecting it is to you later on. Just kind of just taking fast and like bold action essentially.
One of the things that I really loved was I sort of realized that just because I put something out there doesn't mean it's going to be out there forever. I can always go back and reshoot a video. I can always go back and rewrite a blog post. Maybe my pictures are terrible, but they're the best I can do today. So maybe next week I can go back and redo it. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like progress is so much more important than making sure something is 100%
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, because my whole like motto is like progress, not perfection, right? And
Yeah.
knowing that good enough is like I call good enough the new perfect, like because sometimes we get too like we get too stuck on wanting it to be perfect, and whatever this idea of perfect is sometimes not even attainable, right? So it's important to be okay with good enough and just keep it moving. I think we sometimes we get in our own ways and sense of that. So like, what other ways has like perfectionism like been a part of your life? Like, can you share any past stories or incidents that have happened in the past where perfectionism kind of got in your way?
Sure. I think the biggest way that perfectionism has gotten in my way is is the fact that it prevents me from taking steps at all, because, if I'm putting myself out there, and no matter what I'm doing, even if it's just, this is when I was younger, even if it's just going up and talking to somebody, is everything perfect with me? Is everything I'm going to say perfect? Do I have the perfect response? And it really hinders you, especially because a lot of times you don't. And if you're like, well, if I can't be perfect, I'm not going to do it, And I think that just leads to so much either procrastination or just not taking action at all. And that's no way to live your life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think it's important that we know how to make perfectionism work for us. Because being a perfectionist, I'm a lot more critical to certain things than other people may be. And, being able to see those things can improve, the quality of your work. But then knowing when to align it in the right spaces and not allow it to take, perfectionism to take over and get in your way completely, where you can't do anything and you just procrastinate and you become lazy and you just don't do anything, because sitting on the couch and watching TV is a lot more fun than actually doing, you find that being a lot more fun than doing what you really need to do. So I think it's important to really think about how to make perfectionism work for you. So I think that's really, really important. And another question for you, I wanted to ask you, has perfectionism affected any of your relationships? I don't know how much you want to share, but if you could share a little bit with us, that'd be great.
It has affected so many of my relationships. I don't even know. Let me think if I even have an example. I have had so many people come to me and go, Kristin, I'm not perfect. I'm a human being. And I'm always like, I know that you're human, but we should try to be even better, right?
Yes.
And I'm working on that, and it still is a work in progress. But I'm trying to get so much better. Especially when people do when people, they do take steps and they do get, whatever the situation, the problem may be, everyone is trying. And I think it's important to recognize that struggle that everyone has internally. And for me, what I found that helps me in my relationships is to focus more on myself. And yes, this other person has all these problems that I see, and it's so easy for me to pick them apart. But it's really just a distraction, and me and what's going on in my life, and why am I, I'm not perfect, and I have things that I need to improve on. And I find that when I tend to start to pick apart other people, it's time for me to take a step back and go, okay, what's happening here? Maybe I should go for a walk. Maybe I should focus on myself. Maybe I should do some knitting and just stop thinking for a minute,
Yeah, for sure. So do you think that by you nitpicking at other people and kind of projecting all of that onto other people, do you think that it takes away from you being really, really vulnerable and really being authentic with yourself and really owning it? Do you think that is a part of that puzzle, more or less?
Absolutely. I think, I think as perfectionists, we have this tendency to be able to, and it can be a very valuable skill to look at something and pick something apart and know what's wrong and know how to fix it. But I think part of the problem is, if we can't necessarily control it, we can rip apart other people, and that's not only not helpful, but it's completely taking the spotlight away from us and what's going on in our lives and what we should be doing for ourselves. And it's not criticizing other people.
Yeah, it's really taking ownership and looking at yourself and deciding, what it is that you need to really work on right now in order for you to be show up and be your best self, right? So
right, exactly.
It's really, really good. So have you found that perfectionism has blocked you or prevented you from being truthful to anybody, whether it being in intimate relationships or just family relationships or work relationships? Have you found that it's been a challenge, more or less, to be authentic? You don't want to be perceived a certain way or anything like that?
Sure. I have a lot of issues with I've gotten so much better over the years, but it's still an issue. I want to present this image of what I consider to be my perfect self to the world, to people I meet. And that's just not the case. I have flaws. And so when I'm talking to other people or trying to share my story, it's really difficult sometimes because it's not only hard for me to admit that I messed up, but it's hard for me to then be like, hey everyone, look at this thing I did. And that's so important for relationships of any kind. You know, whether it's in business or in intimate relationships, you have to be a real person. You have to be who you are.
Yeah.
And you can't just cover that up. Not if you want to have something real and true and authentic.
Yeah. It's I think authenticity is one of those things that like we kind of just throw out of the window when perfectionism really takes charge and we allow it to take up so much of our like of who we are in the space that we occupy as well, and not being truthful to ourselves. So I think that's really important. But was there anything else you wanted to share with everybody, like in terms of what you're working on, or more about your website, anything like that? Get your minutes, your few seconds of fame.
Sure. I am working on a few. Gosh, I'm working on so much, actually. I'm working on some more courses. I'm working on some more knitting patterns for those who already know how to knit. And I'm actually in the process of coming up with some guided meditations so that people who can't like shut their mind off for an hour and just sit there for an hour, people who struggle with that, who are struggling with everything that they know they need to do and all the different ways that they can go out and be perfect and make everything perfect. I'm coming up with ways to help people like me relax.
Which is a good thing, right? Because we need to have more time where we're relaxed and we just don't focus on 10 different things. Because I like to tell people like that multitasking is not your friend. Like we want to and choose when to multitask. Like if you're just like watching TV for fun and listening to music at the same time, then go ahead, like knock yourself out. But if you have work to do, like if it means like shutting down, you got to shut down Facebook, you got to shut down email. And if you got something to work on, just like a lot amount of time, like if it take it's going to take you 40 minutes, sit down and take that 40 minutes and really just like set the timer if you need to, and just focus and just like get it done. Because I think when you're trying to multitask and have 10 different things going on all at the same time, at the end of it, you don't even accomplish anything, right? So
no, not at all. I think multitasking is horrible, and I used to think that I was so good at it, and then everything just stopped getting done.
Yeah.
And I found that you're absolutely right. When you focus on one task, it doesn't take you that long as long as it would take, and then you knock something out and you can move on to the next one. It's so much greater to focus on one thing at a time.
Of course. Well, I think we've pretty much like talked about a lot and shared a lot of valuable things with the community. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me, Kristin. And in the description box, like text below will be your website and your Facebook and your Twitter if people want to connect with you. So that information will be down below.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Okay, bye.
Bye.